All right, we'll call this January 8th. I thought, for some reason, I got the 9th in my head. January 8th, 2024, 5:30 Finance Committee. Do what? Is it? It is the 9th. I was going to say, it is, okay, it is a January 9th. I was wrong. I'm reading the 8th, okay. All right. Okay. I got confused there just for a second. I'm going to turn the finance meeting over to you, the floor to you, Mr. Westcott.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item for business this evening, specific to the 4 members of the Finance Committee, is the election of a chairman for this current year. The floor is now open for nominations for the role of chairman.
I nominate Eric Westcott.
Third.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I declare nominations closed, and Eric Westcott is elected as chairman by acclamation. Mr. Westcott, do you accept? Yes, I do. Thank you very much. Okay, moving into our agenda this evening. Item number 1 is an appropriation request from the 2022 carryover balance, the sum of $68,971.49 to be used to provide funding for the keycard entry system for City Hall. I move that we forward item number 1 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Second by Mr. Keller. Is there any discussion on item number 1?
Mr. Westcott, can
Yes.
It's appropriate it would have to be the 2023 carryover balance because we have moved
is that a
into
typo?
2023.
Is that a typo
Miss
on that?
Gilton, this appropriation 1 would have to be appropriated from the 2023 carryover balance. It's written as 2022 carryover balance. I'm not sure if that.
That's a typo.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Yeah.
Then. Okay. Thank you.
Any discussion on number 1? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 2 is consideration of a resolution that would authorize the mayor and city clerk treasurer to enter into an agreement with the Boys and Girls Club of the River Valley Incorporated, doing business as the A.L. Williamson Boys and Girls Club, for services for calendar year 2024 and other purposes. This agenda again says 23, but that's 24. If you look there in this contract, it specifies $70,000, but last year we had originally approved, if I understand, originally approved $70,000 as we had done before, but then came back early in the spring of last year and increased that by $30,000 to $100,000 total. So the current contract in this, before us this evening, is at 70. And I move, do we need to amend that? Or can we just make the motion at 100,000?
If that's what you want to do, you can amend it if you want to pass it tonight.
Okay. In regard to item number 2, I move that we forward item number 2 to the full council with the amount of $100,000
Second.
with a recommendation of approval.
Second.
Second by Mr. Keller. Any discussion on number 2? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. It has been requested that we table item number 3, and I so move. All those in favor of tabling item number 3, say aye. Those opposed, thank you. Item number 4 is an appropriation request from the Criminal Justice Order 1014 Fund, the sum of $30,115 to be used to replace the Academy car with the Toyota Camry. The insurance reimbursement portion of this has already been received, and I move that we forward item number 4 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Second by Mr. Keller. Any discussion on number 4? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Item number 5 is an appropriation request. It is a pass-through for funding from the COPS hiring grant into the general fund, the sum of $314,183.88. And I move that we forward item number 5 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Second by Mr. George. Any discussion on number 5? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is consideration of an ordinance that would amend ordinance number 2437, which established an ambulance fee schedule for the city of Russellville to provide a discount to all self-pay patients without insurance if their bill is paid in full and under certain criteria. And I move that we forward item number 6 to the full council with a recommendation of approval. Second by Mr. George. Is there any discussion on number 6? Chief Sloan, is there any information that you would feel like sharing with the public at this point regarding number 6? From the microphone, if you would, please. Thank you.
That-
What we have found is that's such common practice in the medical field. In other words, hospitals, you come in and you say, if you need a surgery, you say, if I can pay, the, whatever my part is initially up front, and you get a discount. That we have had so many requests from, it's not so many, but we've had a few requests. And again, that is standard practice. And sometimes with hospitals, it's much more than 10%, but we're just looking to incentivize someone who come in and actually write a check for their portion, whatever that is, up front.
Chief, this being an ordinance, are you requesting any certain reading schedule? 1 reading, 2 readings,
No,
3?
again, this is just something that
Any
that
emergency
we didn't
clause?
anticipate, and again, it's common practice in the medical field, and we just want to add it to something we can do so that we don't have to just say, sorry, we don't have anything that we can do. No, whatever you guys are comfortable with, we're fine with.
Well, what does your department need? Do you need the 1 reading and the emergency? Do you need 2? What do you request?
I don't think that we need, again, this is a service for the community. It really doesn't affect us. We're just trying to make it easy and, again, incentivize the public and make it easier for them to pay and make them feel a little better about it. If they can come in and pay that total amount, that they get a 10% discount overall. As far as a timetable, I don't know that there's anyone out there right this second that's waiting for this. It's not an emergency, but it is for the public. In other words, if you get it passed 3 months quicker.
I think a
And-
1 of 1 would be good, as Chief Perry and I have talked about. It
Yeah.
would just be an opportunity. I think a
I
1
was
of
gonna
1 would be good
suggest that
without
we-
an emergency.
I was going to suggest that we enact the emergency clause based on health, wealth, and,
Well, you're doing it to benefit the
Because
citizens.
it's benefit the
It's
citizens.
definitely
There's
benefited
really
the
no
city.
downside to it, so.
Are you are you recommending 1 and with an emergency clause, sir? Ms. Skelton was asking.
Okay, so, yes. There is a motion and second on the floor to forward that to the full council with a recommendation of approval. You're asking that to include 1 reading and the emergency clause, is that correct? Yes. Okay. Is there any further discussion on number 6? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief, very much. It has also been requested that we table item number 7, and I so move. Second. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Anything else for the good of the committee?
I have a question.
Ms. Skelton has a question.
On item 3, did you table it to next Thursday or to February?
Do we want to
think
do it in
we-
March? Yes. Could we table that to March, sir? How
I
does
think
that
I
work?
have, I think I have to put it on February and we'll have to table it again. So,
Has to go to the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, so February.
So they default to forward to Thursday?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. In which case, we could, if we need to, table them again.
Can we take it off and bring it back?
Would that, Okay, so it has been requested that we remove item number 3 from the agenda, is that correct? Yes. And I so move. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Mayor, I yield the floor back to you.
Thank you, Chairman Westcott. We will adjourn until 6 PM for agenda prep. No. We can't go straight into the agenda prep because it's advertised at 6 o'clock. Is that right? Can we go into agenda prep or?
That's how it's advertised.
And what was the?
Six.
Yeah, okay, it's advertised at 6.
So can I just put it next time immediately following?
Yes.
What I have in the rules. So,
Yeah.
but if you've advertised it at 6, then we gotta start at 6. Yep.
He's got it, I just wrote it wrong.
She just advertised the public at 6, so.
Yeah, I'll do it.
lost my mind, so. All right. All right, we'll call this January 9th. That's actually right on this, January 9th agenda prep to order. All right, so I did ask, I was anticipating more discussion possibly tonight, so I did ask or give Mr. Duval permission not to come tonight to talk. So that's the reason he's not here tonight. He said there's not a whole lot that he was going to have to report, but I was anticipating more discussion. So, Mr. Gray, do you have anything that you want to talk about from your Personnel Committee at 5 p.m.?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we considered one item, an update to the personnel handbook, mainly regarding reimbursement employees that might be traveling in personal cars for personal business, and that was given a due pass.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And Mr. Keller, you'll have plenty to talk about, I'm sure, as the newly appointed finance director.
Who is that?
Yeah, that would be you. I'm just kidding. I was just talking, but you will have plenty to talk about during the meeting. We're going to have going down to unfinished old business. We're going to have a third and final reading on a consideration of an ordinance for the vacation of a 20-foot alleyway behind lots 3, Block 1, North Side Addition. That should be pretty cut and dry. Item 2. Do we have a speaking list? Do we have anybody sign up to speak tonight? Yeah, if you would check on that. And we have a consideration of item 2 is going to be a consideration of an ordinance codifying existing offenses involving public safety, welfare, or health and welfare, declaring violations of the code and a misdemeanor. Sarah's sending it to you? Okay. And this is going to be a third and final reading. See if you got it. Yeah. Well, there's a gentleman here that's going to speak for one of those. Are you wanting to speak? Were you on item 2 or 3? Item 2, okay, all right. So, sir, if you would state your, I'm not going to be able to read that, I'm sorry. Seth Ritter, right? Yes, sir. If you would approach the podium, state your name, and we'll have 3 minutes to speak. You have 3 minutes to speak and address the council.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Again, I'm Captain Retired Seth Ritter. I rise today to express caution and further deliberation on agenda item unfinished old business item number 2. Right. And my bottom line up front, my initial suggestion is that we table the measure, the proposed ordinance, until and then have, if there is like a legitimate need that is found for these items that are within the proposed ordinance, that after language revision is made to those to the ordinance and the specific items within the ordinance, that we open that to a vote to the public. Because if we have the capacity to turn some of our fellow citizens and our neighbors into criminals for novelty lighters, having the legally dubious language surrounding firearms, and some other measures, right? I think that the public needs to be involved, right? Like if you're going to make decisions that your constituents are going to be held by, especially if it has the capacity to turn them into a misdemeanor crime, right? And then potentially a felony, because when enough misdemeanor crimes of the same nature accumulate, then generally they can be held to be a felony, right? And then once a felony occurs, they no longer have voting. There's voting limitations. There's also firearm limitations. So like actual natural right issues here, then they need to have a say-so in that, right? It needs to be like actual deliberation for it. And that I think would be accomplished through the voting process on an individual or itemized basis, right? And my initial kind of question here, and I know I've got limited time and I've got there's a lot of points, but what's the actual need for, let's say, using the hunting ordinance, the firearms and the hunting ordinance, like what's the actual like public safety need for that?
Mr. Smith, you want to reply to that,
Yes.
sir?
Well, first off, I mean, you would agree with me that these ordinances are already in effect, correct?
In some way, shape, or form, yes.
They're identically in effect.
Okay,
If you table this and go out and shoot your guns in celebration of tabling it, you will still be arrested.
right.
You
Correct.
understand that?
Yes,
So you're really wanting to hold up something you want to repeal something that's already in existence, correct?
no, I want to table the misdemeanor charge.
But the law is already in effect.
Correct.
You will still not accomplish anything by what you're doing.
Yeah, man,
All these laws are in effect.
Correct.
yeah, what
Yeah.
this isn't establishing anything new. Basically, what this is doing is, so we've got X number of ordinances that are already on the book.
Right.
The only thing this is doing is, like, instead of them being scattered throughout in different ordinances, is putting them all in one place so that it's easier for citizens to look up. It's easier for, like, if we're making revisions in the future, so on and so forth.
Right.
So this is just a clerical thing. Like, this isn't establishing anything new.
And so the language on, let's see, section 3, where misdemeanor offense subject to punishment, and then section 6 under 6.1, any person violating shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. This is not establishing a misdemeanor crime for, like, let's say, the novelty lighter issue.
Well, I mean, it's anything that's already on the, like, anything that's in here is already word
just
for
a
word
civil-
on the book.
Right, but no, it's the categorization of the punishment.
Word for word, 100% word for word.
This is not establishing a new law. This is already on the books. This is just putting everything together. Nothing new has been added, I think is what Mr. Killer's trying to explain to you. There's
Yeah,
no
so-
new laws being made by this ordinance.
So unless there, so there's not like ordinance number 1297 or whatever
Right.
that is, that covers hunting within the city limits. What this does is it just puts, like, in section 2, is it codifies all existing ordinances. It's existing ordinances involving public safety, health and welfare, and so on and so forth, all into one spot. So it's all in one document, as opposed to there being like 100 different ordinances out there that cover this. Everything's just going to be put in one.
Right.
So instead of going and having to look at like 12 different books to get some information about a topic, all the information on that topic is just in one big reference book. And so that's what this is. It's just making that reference book. So it doesn't establish anything differently than what is currently on the books. It doesn't create anything differently. It, word for word, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Smith, but it, word for word, takes ordinances that are already on the book and puts them all into one spot so that it's easier for people to reference, it's easier for people to look up. You know, I know personally when I was trying to find some stuff about the animal code last year, there were like 5 or 6 different ordinances dating back decades. And some of them had been repealed, some of them weren't even on the books anymore, some of them, parts have been repealed and whatnot. And so as opposed to having to go through the 5 different ordinances that are out there over the last 40 years and figure out what had been repealed from what and what it actually said, this just takes it all and does that work for the citizen.
Okay.
So it's all in one spot. If you wanted to know something about the animal code for Russellville, boom, you just go to that reference book and you can see every ordinance that's there. And moving forward, what we're going to do is, like, if we do pass an ordinance about the animal code, then it would then go into this, just so that that reference remains up to date. So it's just clerical. It's nothing new at all.
Okay.
Anything that you have a problem with as far as the language, that's stuff that's already on the books.
Right.
And I'm more than willing to have a conversation about maybe some of that language needs to change, or maybe we need to look at that differently.
That would
But,
be,
yeah,
yeah.
that's all we're
I
doing
think the
is putting
proper
things in one
channels
spot.
would be to meet with one of your councilmen and talk with them, and seeing as how all of these ordinances already exist, you could have them repeal or amend some of those ordinances possibly. What you would have to do is speak with them, talk about the language, and if they wanted to bring it to the full council to amend or repeal something, that would be the proper channel to do that. Because what we're talking about right now is already active. We're not enacting anything new.
Yeah,
Does
so
that make,
this-
does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
Kind
thank
of
you.
look at the sections that you're concerned with, like section 6.1, and propose something to one of us that you would like to see changed, and then that would be the process we go forward from there.
On the city of Russellville, all of your council people are on there. I strongly recommend anytime I tell someone that they're going to reach out to a council person, ask them to share that with the rest of the council. And everyone up here is very good about sharing that with the rest of the council. If you write an email to one, it's going to get to all 8. So they're really good at that. So thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
out.
hey, thanks for the clarification. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
no problem. Thank you so much, Mr. Ritter.
Thank you for the deliberation.
Yeah, definitely applaud
Yeah.
for, like,
Activity and involvement.
like that's what we all, that's what we're all about.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so item 2 is going to be the consideration of an ordinance codifying existing offenses involving public safety, and that's going to be third and final reading. Moving on to item 3 is going to be somewhat similar. It's going to be the consideration of an ordinance codifying existing ordinances involving traffic and parking offenses. It's going to be a third and final reading also. Item 4 is also going to be similar to that. It's going to be a third and final reading on consideration of an ordinance codifying existing city franchise fees and utilities for use of city right-of-ways. And then you guys stop me if you guys have anything you want to say. Item 5 is going to be a consideration of an ordinance amending the Russellville Oakland Cemetery Commission Code adopted ordinance number 2444. 2460. Okay, so Mr. Smith corrected us on 2460 there. This will also be a third and final reading. Item 6 is going to be a ordinance for the zone text amendment to adopt proposed changes to the Russellville zoning code. This is also going to be a third and final reading for us. Item 7 is consideration of an ordinance rezoning certain realty in the city of Russellville. For the purposes, this is located at 725 South Macon Avenue. This is unanimously recommended by the Planning Commission. This is a second of 3 readings we will have. Item 7, it's the one out on Macon Drive, if I'm saying that correctly. Is that, where's that located, Miss John Dahl? Behind ConAgra?
That is directly south of the Wrecker Service. This specific property is directly south of the Wrecker Service. The new business that you have coming up to rezone some areas is next to ConAgra in their parking lot, south of ConAgra, and then adjacent to the railroad on Macon Avenue. So there's a new one coming to you under new business, but this one is specifically just next to the Wrecker Service on
out
Macon.
behind, going towards Tyson, Tyler
Going
Road.
towards,
from,
south towards the airport.
Yes.
Hickson Lumber, across from Hickson Lumber, across from the lumber yard, Hickson Lumber.
It is north of Hickson
Yeah,
Lumber on the same
yeah.
side.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, and then we have item 8 is a consideration of an ordinance amending the city administration code adopted by ordinance, this is 2460.
Yeah, it's a different part where we're adding a new article to consolidate the existing municipal referendum and initiative into the city administration code.
So this is an additional addendum that's going to be to the same ordinance, which is item 5, correct, sir?
No, they're
There's
different.
difference? They're-
It's 5 is the Oakland Cemetery one to meet at least quarterly,
But they have,
and this is putting the municipal referendum deadline at 30 days, and municipal initiative at 60. They're already on
Okay.
the books.
Okay.
2 ordinances back 20 or so years ago.
okay, so this is a second and final reading on this, we've asked. All right, moving on to new business. We have a consideration of an ordinance amending the City of Russellville Stormwater Management and Drainage Ordinance for the City of Russellville. This is adopted as ordinance 1675, and this is sponsored by City Attorney Trey Smith. Anyone have any questions on that, seeing as how it's new business?
Are we asking for any certain reading scheduled to that?
There's not because my time being here, nobody's ever gone to that board, so it can be done at the leisure. But the thing is, the Stormwater Management Board that's set up is supposed to have 2 council members, the mayor, and 2 people, citizens of residents of the city, nobody ever, it's never filled out. The Board of Adjustment is, and then, of course, there's never been an appeal that I've seen in 23 years, so it just seems to make sense instead of having another board to put it with the Board of Adjustment.
Well, and I'm certainly not recommending 3. I'd just soon be happy with 1, because considering those circumstances you just talked about. But I just wanted to be sure of that before we got into next week's meeting, that we were all on the same page.
We'll do 101 then, sir. One time only?
So it dissolves that board, and then just so I'm clear, the authority goes where? To the Board of Adjustment. Okay.
All right. Moving on to item 2. Are we ready, sir? Consideration of an ordinance to enter into an agreement with Transformation Life Church RV Park. This is submitted by Barrett and Associates on behalf of Transformation Life Church. Any questions on this?
Is this where the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah Witnesses?
No. This is actually out off Sparksford Drive. This is actually out of the city limits. City Corp has made an agreement. They've asked to bring sewer out there, so it's already gone through the City Corp board, and it just has to pass through us. So,
And it was heard, you will get information, it was heard last night at the Planning Commission. It was unanimously approved with the Planning Commission with some specific conditions. Typically, an outside service agreement, you would just be extending the sewer for a church or something, but they're putting in an RV park, and so there were some conditions that the Planning Commission recommended.
So the RV park is just, it's going to be part of the church, or is this for the?
Yes, sir.
The Eclipse, or is it?
Partially for the Eclipse, but then they're putting in 11-space RV park as part of the property, and they will manage it through the church right there. And so some of the conditions, or one of the conditions was that they didn't remove the wheels and turn it into a mobile home park, but that it is an RV campground. Because in that area, it's not subject to zoning because it's just in the planning boundary, but they very much worked with the city to come in mostly into compliance with our regulations. And so that was one thing that the Planning Commission and staff had recommended, and Planning Commission agreed with that. So there's 4 conditions on that Planning Commission recommended to you all.
Has there been a sense of urgency expressed on this, being an ordinance?
They haven't expressed it, but I believe they are trying to get this done for the Eclipse. I will confirm.
If we could do a 1 of 1, I think it would be good. 1, and I don't know if we'd have to have an emergency clause, but
I will confirm and get that information back to you if they are requesting that for next week.
Thank you.
Ms. John Dahl, can you stay there just 1 second? Because I want
Yes.
to put you on the spot. Mr. George brought up something that I wanted to ask you. There has been an extension given to the church on 16th Street to complete their construction. Can you tell us the deadline on when that is? You may not have that in front of you.
I do not have
Okay.
that in front of me. I will definitely get that
Would you-
information. They did request an extension, but I do not.
If you would just email that to us all, I would appreciate that so we have an idea.
Email, so if you give me a second, I might
Okay.
be able, and
No
I'll
problem.
let you know.
Mr. George brought that up, and so while you were, well, they're doing a
Yes.
complete remodel on that, so we've been gracious, but like I say, if you would just let us know that. So
Absolutely, yes, sir.
moving on to item 3, consideration of ordinance rezoning certain realty in the city of Russellville for other purposes. This is located along South Macon and Highway 331. This is what Ms. John Dahl just talked about, just directly south of Conagra, correct? So this will be a 1 of 3, maybe? No issues there? All right, is everybody else good with that?
Nice.
All right, moving on to item 4, discussion with waste management. Mr. Vernon, would you approach the hot seat? And
Lectern?
yeah, and guys, those of you who don't know, this is Jamie Vernon. You are the district manager.
No, I don't want that title. I'm
okay.
the public sector for the state of Arkansas for waste management.
Okay, yeah, what he said, that's what he is, so. So you guys fire. Anybody want to ask Mr. burning some questions. Excuse me.
Yes, hi, thank you so much for coming. Do you have any sort of update on what you're doing to improve? Because I know I am still getting a lot of complaints. Just
Yeah,
like an hour ago, there was still people complaining.
Sure. From our last meeting, I know part of the discussion and why I'm here today and plan to be here today was he wanted an update from what we talked about and how we'd make improvements. And I think improvements to consistency from the last 2 meetings that we've had. And I think that I have seen, and I hope that you will agree, that we've had a marked improvement in our consistency from week to week, and specifically from recycle week to recycle week since the past meetings. We've made a change in our management structure. We don't have the same route manager that we had last time we were meeting. Our Van Buren manager has been managing the process for us to work through some of the issues that we've had. We've hired a new manager. He started this week. I believe the mayor ran into him at lunch, didn't get a chance to speak. We hadn't had any recycle rollovers like we've had in prior months. We did have an issue over the Christmas break where by the time we got to the Saturday, we had to roll some of that over into this past week, and we did our best to communicate it as best we could. Trying to think of any other things. The calendar was late, and I know that I had some questions.
Do we have
about
that yet? Do we have the calendar?
We do. It's been sent to the city and been sent to City Court for dissemination, and it's going to be mailed out with the water bills this month as
Okay.
well. And I've emailed a few copies.
James, do you have that? James is giving, IT's given me a thumbs up. That's good. Thank you.
So what is a route that somebody could take if they're unhappy with the service, but they have to have the service, or apparently they don't use recycling, but they have to pay for recycling? Is there any recourse that somebody could?
So part of recycling, and the reason that everybody pays for recycling is because it's such an expensive process, and it's not usually economically feasible for a city to have it on a prescription basis. You could go that route in the next contract term, but it does tend to get exponentially more expensive that way.
I have a question about local response. I mean, we all got that email from a citizen with for example, a broken trash can lid, and according to her email, had been a 6-week process, and she still has not gotten a replacement lid. So I know when I've called in the past, a couple of years ago, I had a problem with something. How many people are local? How many people answer the phone in Russellville and know that, hey, this is a Russellville calling about a Russellville problem? How many people are?
So that's something I had meant to talk about sort of when I thought about this morning, is we have one person that's an ops person in Russellville, and her job is to answer the phone. But now we don't let it go. We don't let it roll over. It can roll over to our 1-800 number, but now it rolls over to one of our ops persons in Van Buren or Pine Bluff or Little Rock that specifically knows the details of the Russellville contract. And I think we've had calls that I know I was in Pine Bluff on one day last week, and there was a call that went to Darla that understands the Russellville contract.
I haven't checked back with that citizen yet. I was hoping they could be here tonight.
You talking about the one with the broken lid?
The broken lid, to see if they've gotten a new
They-
lid
they
yet.
do have it.
Have
She's
you
on the
gotten a
back
new
row.
lid yet, Ms. Thomas?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Did you say moldy?
Okay.
No worries. Well, I'll get with you after this. And
But the lid wasn't broken. Okay.
Thank you for reaching out to us. I appreciate it. On that same note, I know that you use robotic arms, which I'm fine with. I get that from the technology standpoint, but I know Monday, my trash was Monday, and it was picked up. I went around my neighborhoods, 50-something houses, and over 3/4 of them, the lids were open, and it was going to start raining that day. And so I walked around the neighborhood disclosing lids, but I know, is there a way that, especially because that was the day it rained so hard for so long, that open trash and especially recycling, it becomes a nightmare.
Sure.
Is that, and I know some of the trucks, I know, at least in my neighborhood, the recycling trucks have people on them physically doing it. Trash tends to be one of those robotic arms, throws it in there, and who knows what happens. Is there any consideration of that as you're going through that, hey, it's going to rain today and we're going to have a bunch of trash cans? I'm thinking about elderly people, disabled people, that's just not an easy thing to pull that cart back up when it's got, 3-4 inches of water in it.
The ASLs, the way they're set up, it's an industry standard. Whether it's Waste Management, LRS cards, we have the same type of trucks. And if that cart is turned with the lid facing toward the inside, more than likely it's going to end up with the lid open. If there are high winds that day, when it comes down, the lids has an opportunity to stay open.
The whole neighborhood.
So there's
though.
really not a great way unless we stop at every household and flip those lids up. And at that point, it's, again, not economical to route them that way or safe for the drivers.
So are you saying if you put your trash can out backwards, you're more likely to have your lid closed?
No, if you put it out backwards, it's more likely to stay open.
Don't put the handle facing the road. Put the
Yeah,
handle
it's,
facing
the can does say face the curb on the top, has an arrow, and that, yeah, your handles will be faced back, so.
Because when we had, if you've got one of those trucks picking up, we had this conversation earlier, I made this mistake for the whole time I lived where I live. But I had a person coming to grab the can, and so I left the handle out towards the road. But now that the truck is picking it up, you got to face it the right way, the way that it says on the can, because that's how the machine grabs it, by that metal bar. And there may be people that are doing the same and not realizing now that it's no longer a person grabbing it and putting it in, it's a machine.
And that's not an end-all solution. Sometimes high winds or any number of factors, they just don't always close.
And I'm just going to say one more thing, is because I have a neighbor that is, and I told him I would say something, that he really asking people if we could educate the community to take their trash cans and put them out back by their house. Again, I know, Mr. Keller, you're already shaking your head, but I have a constituent who said, I promise I will bring this up just for the beautification of Russellville. So I brought it up, and hopefully he's pleased that I at least brought it up. But I told him I can't think of an ordinance we could write. How would you enforce that?
It is an
Oh my God, I wouldn't wanna
agreement
get into
that it's recommended that you
It's
take.
recommended.
It's recommended, but it's not an enforceable
I recommend,
ordinance.
and I am never going to propose an ordinance like that, but I told him I would bring it up.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Vernon?
Yeah, so I got a question. Please tell me what my answer is, because I've gotten it 3 times in the last 2 weeks, for instance. Trash was supposed to be picked up on Thursday last week. Latest one was yesterday. Trash was supposed to be picked up on Thursday last week, and today it's not picked up, and it's been 4 or 5 days. How am I supposed to answer that?
So last week it wasn't picked up on Thursday,
Correct.
and we didn't pick it up on Friday?
Correct.
Okay. How are we supposed to fix that weekly, or what's the?
Yeah, it's a weekly trash pickup. We're standard trash. Didn't pick up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or today again after texting you yesterday.
Okay. We need to pick it up on that day. Is the address you texted me the
Yes.
address? Okay.
Yes.
I'll have to follow up and find out specifically why we're not picking that street up on the correct day. I don't have the answer for you.
Which is
right now.
fine, but what am I supposed to tell? Because this is not just a one-time deal.
Sure.
It happens frequently. So all I hear is fire waste management. Well, okay, great. Well, what's my response to be? I don't know, throw my hands up. I want you to tell me what I'm supposed to do in that instance.
Gotcha. Well, I think you can tell them that you reached out to me. I'll be happy to talk to that customer and talk to them directly.
But that's showing that that's not working either. So what's the next step?
well, the next step is for us to do better and become more consistent. And then if we can't do that, I feel like we've made big steps the last 90 days, but we're going to continue to do better. But then obviously, the next step is for the council to make a decision on waste management.
Thank you, sir.
I will say, just to be,
Did you, well.
that things have been better since the last, we talked last quarter. So I will say, things have been picked up. I bet these incidents that, like Mr. Olson's bringing up, and the trash can lid with Ms. Thomas, and those kind of things, those are still coming up. But I will say, the least general service, I have gotten far few complaints in the last, since the last quarter.
Okay, so
Ms. Clear, what is your question to Mr. Vernon? Come up here
Phone
and
so we can
so you
hear,
can speak.
'cause it's,
State
being
your name
recorded.
and,
Terry Clear. Christmas week, our pickup was due Saturday. It didn't come. It came, there was no notification that it wasn't coming, but it did come Monday. New Year's week, it was supposed to be there Friday. We did get notification that it was coming Saturday. It didn't come Saturday. It didn't come Monday. None of Norristown got done. Norristown.
which is Skyline.
Skyline, Norristown
Yeah,
Circle,
so-
all
yeah.
that stuff. That whole area didn't get picked up. Mine didn't get picked up today until 4, and that's because I called. And she wrote, this is Tuesday, and it was supposed to be picked up Friday. So, you know,
I think one of the things, Jamie, that she's talking about is, we get a lot of these calls is, we're going to pick up on, we're going to be a day late, and so the people that were expecting their trash to be picked up on Saturday, which were the Friday customers, did not put their trash out till Saturday, but your guys somehow came on Friday. So there
Yes.
was a lot of frustration there.
And they were supposed to have reran the entire routes on Saturday, and so we'll have to have a discussion on why that didn't happen.
So I'm going to give you
But
just a
I'll-
second, Nolan. You are on the list. You are, Mr. Edwards, I know you're going to, so does anyone else have any questions for Mr. Vernon while he's right there? Yes, Ms. Barraza.
How do you send out a mass text message? Is there any way, I know we had already been receiving concerns and trash had not been picked up, and I actually didn't even receive a text message till 3 days after, we had already been receiving emails or anything. So is there any way that you could possibly, send those out a little earlier? Just, if we've already got issues, let them know automatically, yes, we know there's an issue going on, or let someone know what is going on. Do you do something like that?
So we've begun to use Citicorp because they have the most reliable messaging, and the best data. We don't have the best data as far as contact information. We have addresses, and typically I try to let the city know, the mayor's office, and then go to Citicorp as soon as I can. But I'll try to be more diligent in following up with our route folks. The past week, I tried to get a message out as soon as possible, and so I'll work to do that more expeditiously. Sorry about that.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Vernon before Mr. Edwards speaks?
yes.
Okay, Mr. Keller.
Okay, so when we met a few months ago, you and the gentleman who came with you,
I'm sorry?
you and the gentleman who came with you a few months back
Sure.
said that you guys were going to be getting new trucks. You guys were going to be getting new personnel, including drivers. And that you guys were going to have a new process for communicating with customers. And you were looking into targeting. I mean, I think I've got the last part answered. But of those 3 things that you guys said at our last meeting that you guys were going to get before we met today, have you gotten new trucks?
We have brought in additional trucks, not new trucks. I don't think we just said new trucks.
I mean, that's what I mean.
Yes, sir.
More
Yes, sir.
trucks.
We brought in additional trucks out of our Springdale fleet and then out of Little Rock fleet as well.
Okay. And you guys got more more people out there doing this.
We
as
have.
well.
Since we've talked, we've been bringing in additional drivers from Springdale and from Van Buren. And then at this time, we've hired additional drivers who have come on and then are still coming on board.
And then, I mean, obviously, there's been a shortfall in the communication aspect of it. So if we come back here in 3 months and talk again, what steps are you guys going to take on the communication front to improve this? I mean, you say you're going to get better. You say you're going to work on it. You need to be more consistent. But what actual steps on communicating with the citizens of Russellville, the information that they need to have, are you guys going to take?
I don't know that I have a specific step for you today on what additionally we can do with communication. We've tried to work with Citicorp and address them when we have large-scale issues as soon as possible. Obviously, I missed a route by at least 3 days, but when we've had issues, we've tried to make that mass communication to the city. Because one thing that we have issues is when we try to target specifically, we miss homes. And because of the way our routes are set up, it's very hard to target routes. And so it has been better for us to communicate to the city as a whole and, try to note on their waste management customers. So that's why we've continued to do it that way as opposed to targeting. We're still working to try to do that, but the way that it's
Geofenced.
geofenced, it's very difficult with the routes because they're all intermingled. And so we've had a hard time with that. So doing the mass text messages and mass emails has been the most effective mode of communication. So I'm still going to continue to that, and hopefully we can refine that geofence. But at this time, it's not super effective. This is why we haven't switched to that yet.
But you are going to attempt to switch to that. Is that what you're saying?
We're trying, but I don't want to leave folks out.
Right.
I mean,
Is that something our IT department, you could consult with
It's
them?
not our IT, it's
through
Citicorp.
I know it's Citicorp, but we all are on the same team, so
But we don't have all of the data in our system. I mean, you're talking
that's what
about-
I'm asking about, is how we can get all the data between all the entities, between those three entities, surely, and again,
It
y'all are
would
based
be-
in Houston, I think waste management's a big,
It would be GIS that would do that.
right, it would be, but you've got to get the data into
Yeah.
the GIS, and those three entities would seem like that should be feasible.
Sure, and I don't mind to ask. I'm open to all options at that point.
So, really quick, we have trash cans that are being missed, bins, or a bin, singular, being damaged, bins filling with water. I know mine were this week. We have missed trash routes, apparently entire streets that are not having their trash picked up. Citizens that are mad at us because we haven't fixed the problem. I don't see a clear path moving forward with this situation. I'm hearing individualized responses. I'll get back to you on that problem, I'll get back to you. But I'm not seeing a big picture movement that would curtail these complaints. I see the complaints going up. So the only thing I can say is I'm not blown away by the progress that you're claiming that you've made. Okay? So that's not really a question, that's just more of a comment, but I just wanted to throw it out there.
Understood.
I would say I find no fault with you personally, or certainly even with your organization, because your organization is doing exactly what our contract allows it to do, which is the level of service that we are enjoying right now. The contract allows for that. The contract was well written at the time, but it needs to be addressed. Under the current system, there is no real penalty of any level of uncomfortableness that we could assess against your business. I mean, that's the fact of it. We could have a meeting, we can complain, and we've done that. But at the end of the day, you're the only game in town, because we have obligated ourselves to a one-hauler system for a variety of different reasons. We don't have the choice. Now, I take that back. We have penalized the single-family residences by saying you must conform to this one-hauler system. Businesses are exempt from that. Duplexes, whatnot,
Yes, sir.
they're
I think
exempt from
multifamily
that.
and businesses.
So it only affects single families, where by law, I have to have trash service. By law, I have to have my trash picked up at a certain time or whatever intervals. So your company, on the other hand, has the ability to not pick up my trash, obviously. So my trash is sitting here at my house. So I'm breaking the law because my trash is not picked up. Now, I want very much to call the trash service guy that lives next door to me to come pick up my trash. But if I do that, I'm breaking the law, right? Because the law says I have to trade with Waste Management, even though Waste Management can decide at their leisure whether they want to pick up my trash or not, right? Am I seeing that correctly? You're penalizing me, or I'm penalized as a homeowner. I want to have my trash picked up. I want to call the trash provider to do it, but I can't. It's against the law for me to do that. It's not against the law for my neighbor's business to do it. It's just against the law for me. Same trash. Anyway, the only solution I can see is to abolish the one-hauler trash system altogether. That's a solution. I would recommend that we as a council, whether it's 4, 6, 8, however many, get together as a committee and talk about our real options for trash service for the city, whether it is open up to hire who you will, or divide it into wards, keep a one-hauler system. I don't know, but this isn't working. The contract that we have right now does not work. I don't fault your company, not at all. You're living up to your end of the contract because that's the way it's written poorly. There's no teeth to it. So it's on us to either keep that contract and add some teeth or change the contract, right?
Sure.
Anyone else have anything before Mr. Vernon goes and Mr. Edwards speaks?
I'll ask, I'll ask this question then. So are you suggesting a working group to get started on this? Because time is of the essence. That contract ends the end of the year. So this is not something we can, if we're going to, what's that?
25.
January 25,
Oh,
which is
25.
the end of this year.
Yeah, it's the end of this year.
Yeah, it's the end of this year.
No, it's January.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't
Jan-
end the end of this
January
year.
It is January 25, yes.
January
So
1st.
we're 1 year out.
So are you suggesting we form a working group to work on this? Because I think if we,
I'm saying I will do my best to fit your schedule. If you all want to come up with such a group, I will do my best to fit your schedule.
So just to clarify, is it December 24 or December 25?
January 25 is our
yeah,
expiration.
it's a year from
What?
now.
January 1st.
January 1st,
We
yes.
would have
So
to
the end
have, if we're not going to re-up, but even if we do re-up, I'm going to suggest a different contract language, but, or another one hauler, or whatever we're going to decide to do, but now's the time to start talking about that.
And
So I'm just putting this, us as a council, we need to decide to do something.
Let me just kind of answer something real quick here. A lot of people, and we get this a lot, is fire waste management. That's not as simple as it looks. If we were to fire waste management, it would be a 9 to 12 month process for us to get another hauler. So the public needs to understand that it's not something that it's not something I have authority over. It's, there's 8 voting members here, but it is a process for us to do that, because a new hauler would have to buy 16,000 carts. They would have to buy 8,000 trash carts, 8,000 recycle carts, and then trucks. But then also, one thing I do want, time is of the essence. We do need to move forward, regardless of what you do with waste management. You need to move forward and look, go out to bid. If you want, you can look at, there's a couple things we need to think about, though. You could, as Mr. Westcott recommended, could go to a multi-hauler. You could stay with a single hauler. The thing is, one of the main complaints we get is there's no recourse for a person not to pay their bill. If they don't pay their bill, their water gets shut off. And that happens when you have a one-hauler system. You may want to think in your contract more messaging capability, and then also realize that when we go back out, the public is going to see a cost increase. That if you go to a one-hauler system, we will see a cost increase across the board because
Non-one hauler system?
no, if you go to a one-hauler system, you're going to have a cost increase.
We're
We're already in a one hauler. I think
no,
you mean.
no, that's what I'm saying. Just if
any new
you
contract.
stay with a one-hauler system, you're going to have all of your citizens are going to have a cost increase that they don't have a choice about. Is what I'm saying. It's what I'm trying to get across to you.
Mr.
But I
Mayor,
think if you go to a multi-hauler system,
Then they have a choice of what they pay.
they do,
Thank
but
you.
the price may not be at a price point
Could we
that a
talk about this
one-hauler would be at. A
committee?
one-hauler.
Yeah, we can talk about this in committee. I just wanted
Yeah.
to put a couple
Right.
things out there, and then
But that's, I think that's not correct, though. A
Wait a minute. Whoa,
multi-hauler
whoa, 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 whoa.
Wait
Wait a minute.
When
Their
you get a one-hauler
contract
system, one of the
expires.
advantages of it is a large contract, economies of scale, lower price per unit. So when you go to multiple haulers, you're going to go into
We'll talk
whatever price point they can meet at. Well, I just want to make sure that's in the public.
Okay,
eye
that's
there.
okay. Thank you, sir.
Just a point of clarification, it is, what is that, December 31 of 2025?
Oh, it is this-
that it expires.
I thought it was.
I don't think that's cool.
I read the
Their
contract.
contract expires December 31,
Okay,
2025.
I
That's
thought
what I'm
I thought the
reading.
contract I saw said.
Thank you.
I thought it was the end of the year.
Yeah, I thought so myself. So we'll look at. But he's reading something right there that shows that. So, Mr. Vernon, thank you, and we
One-
have
one
more
last
question
thing.
for Mr.
Yeah,
I've
Mr.
got one more
Edwards.
question. Go ahead. Did you have something?
No, we have a citizen.
Okay.
Yeah,
One
well,
more
I'm going
question
to let
for
Mr. Vernon sit down, then Mr. Edwards is going to speak. So,
Obviously, we're getting a lot of people reaching out to us who aren't happy. You're the guy that comes and does this for waste management. You're the guy, kind of the public face, and you handle all this stuff as the communications guy. When someone comes to us and says, we don't need waste management anymore, what should we tell them?
You know, obviously, I disagree. I think going to a multi-hauler system is difficult on city streets and difficult on citizens when they have to, pricing necessarily doesn't come down like you think it will.
We
I
could
think
even
that-
go single. We could even go single hauler with
Sure.
a different provider.
That's
My
true.
question is, when someone comes to me and says we don't need waste management anymore, what would you want that person to be told, given everything that you're hearing up here? Other than waste management promises that they will do better again,
Sure.
which isn't getting us anywhere. What would you tell them if they said, we don't think we need waste management anymore? We don't know if it's a one hauler with someone else. We don't know if it's a multi-hauler system, but we know we don't want waste management. What would you say to that person,
You know,
given everything that we've talked about over the last 6 months?
I think we're a company of local residents that work hard. I know I don't live in Russellville, but I live in Ozark. All of our people are local, hardworking Russellvillians. We work to get the trash up as quickly and recycle up as quickly as possible. I understand that residents get frustrated, but the waste business is a difficult business to be in right now, just like many blue-collar businesses. It's hard to keep folks, but we are doing our best. And I understand that some folks get irritated and don't believe, and people are very personal about their trash. So we're out there doing our best day to day, and I hope that people can understand that.
okay, thank you, Mr. Vernon. Mr. Edwards, would you approach the microphone and please state your name so that everyone can hear Thank you for your patience, Mr. Edwards.
I'm Nolan Edwards. I live on Norristown, so I guess I'm living in the battle zone. We have the fortune, I guess, of having Friday trash delivery. And I hate to tell him that he's missed it for the last 6 months, and I had no idea anybody was on probation. The bottom line here is the schedule's printed. I meet the schedule, take my trash out Thursday, expected to be picked up on Friday, supposed to be picked up on Saturday, expected to be picked up on Saturday. New Year's, it showed up on New Year's Day in the middle of the football game. Didn't expect it. I said, well, maybe somebody couldn't go to work. Over the last year, I've had leaking trash cans. I've had broken trash cans. Still have a leaking trash can, but I just fixed it myself. Got tired of messing with them. And I have the fortune of going and taking my trash can and closing the lid on it pretty quick. And just do my station in life. Communications, this last week, the guys show up on Monday, pick up the trash. Thursday, getting ready to take the trash out, get a text, said, hey, trash isn't going to show up, it's going to be 1 day late. A minute later, phone calls, so somebody's communicating. It's a 1-800 number out of Ohio. And I said, well, somebody's trying, so put my trash out late, doesn't show up. My bottom line here is I have no confidence in waste management. I have no comfort in the fact that their management is doing what they're saying. I am on first name basis with the lady that answers the phone. She deserves $50 for everybody that calls her every day. I've had to pull my
Our
wife
ladies
off
here at
of
City
it.
Hall take plenty of calls.
Yeah, I mean, I don't call City Hall. It's just not my. I've been in business before. I called my representative. He told me to come show up. I would seriously ask each and every one of you to take a non-confidence vote in waste management and get them on a repair program. And you know what? If the guys in the office aren't getting their staff to work, give them a damn pair of gloves. If they can't get people and they can't drive trucks, you know, I can forgive a guy for, gee, we're going to be late one day. The very first one is April. Evidently, one of the drivers died. They put out a message that said, hey, we're going to pick it up Saturday. Great. I don't have a problem with that. It's the reoccurrence and the failure to perform as a trash carrier. I have nothing against waste management, but they're failing to perform. And if his butt's on fire, it needs to be. I'm tired of it. I lived there when there was multiple haulers. I had the same trash can for 10 dadgum years. Had waste management for 2 years. I've been through 4 of them. You know, and that comes back to me, well, we'll replace it, sure. 6 weeks later.
All right.
So that's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for coming in, and thank you for Ms. Clear. And so, anyone else have anything? And do we have a motion? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Have a motion to adjourn. All right. Thank you. Set a time for. Yeah, you have a. Set a time for a committee to meet. Well, Mr. Gray, would you maybe connect with some people to get a committee together for this?
Yeah.
Sure, I mean, I can.
Or-
We can, I'll send
Or you
out
want
an
to set?
email
Or you
to
want
the
to set a
council.
time right now? You want to try to
Well,
set a time?
I think to set up something like that, I mean, we can meet before a council meeting. I don't know, it's what.
What if,
Okay, we did not set a time.
I'm
so.
interested to find out if our contract is really 2 years from
Oh,
now.
it is 2 years. It is 2 years from now. We did.
Well,
we
we've
did
got
confirm.
more time than I thought we
So,
had
well,
then, so
could
but
be.
I would still like to get this discussion started at some point this year, so.
Yes.
maybe if we add this to part of our normal discussion at our agenda prep meetings, kind of like we have a report from the street department, we could also have maybe just a little discussion each time, at least have it on our, in front of us to talk
Yeah.
about trash service, where we are on this
I'm
process.
definitely not opposed to having it on the agenda prep that
Okay.
we keep talking about.
Maybe put it
but I
on
think
agenda
that-
prep for next month.
That having
Okay.
some actual
Okay.
meeting where we get together.
We'll
and
put it on agenda prep
quarterly?
for
Do
next month.
this.
Since we
Okay.
got 2 years,
May-
maybe
Yeah, if we
quarterly?
got 2 years, then quarterly could be fine.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone in attendance. We will adjourn. You need to take a note. Yeah, never mind. I'll stop. Thank you, sir.